flashed at the end, and this is where we first talked about, you know, the 4D attraction where you feel the water coming out at you, but that didn't make it in the game. And then finally the fun round Woody's Shooting Gallery, which took us to the score tally scene, and then out front, of course, Mr. Potato Head, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, step right up and take a roller ride. I know you can't go down, up and down, no blindness around you. Our games will test your skills like nothing ever will. And that's when they said, we have to do this thing. And we went, oh, darn. The bad news is we have to figure out how to do this. We just sold them on this idea. So job one was to go to the LA County Fair, and we started playing games. And one, we were scared because we're old-timers, and we just used to play these all fun games, and we thought, wow, what if they're still playing them? So we walked up and down the Midway, and yes, there were all the cheesy knockdown games. They're still all there. The balloon pop, where the poor operator has to blow up balloons all day long, not in our world. We can virtually blow them up all day long. So we did all this. This is Sue Bryant. We won so many toys for her. It was hilarious. It was draped with them. It was in the middle of September, hot as heck in Mount. We just kept winning. She's our game designer, and she couldn't be with us today, but that's for you, Sue. The other thing, now Kevin and I both worked on the Monsters attraction for Tokyo, Ride and Go See, and we had finished that conceptually, and this was the ride vehicle that we had developed for it, and we said, perfect, because this is another one of those attractions where everybody needs a front row seat, because you don't want to be pulling on your shooter, your spring action shooter. So many words. We love words. But as we started to develop it, and you can start to see here's some early artwork for it, of how the booth would work and how we'd play, and you can see on some of the other artwork how it was sort of single-loaded, everybody faced one direction. So we started playing around, and we tried to make sure we get enough guests through this, and eventually we invented a whole new ride system that allowed the guests to rotate and move along on that ride system and interact at each of the screens, which we thought was a really important and differentiator from Buzz, where you kind of drive through constant speed through the entire attraction. We wanted to stop and have some quality time at these booths. So what we thought was going to be kind of an adaptation of the ride system was not. And of course, they ended up being these beautiful little objects that they are. In terms of the site, boy, was this a tricky little piece of business.
I have to interrupt you for a quick little story here in that we went back and walked on the site and I said, Robert, you know what, there's not a whole lot of room out front of this coaster to put this attraction. He said, well, why don't we just go right through it? We'll just dissect the coaster and go right through and I said, I'm not going to tell that to management. You tell it. But he was so passionate about it, he went back to his place and he had a drawing board at home and he figured out the whole thing, and the next day he came and he said, how about this? And this is what he did.
And it was like, yeah, we're just going to take a couple pieces of steel down on the coaster. That should be just fine. We have people who take care of those things for us. So we did that. And meanwhile, we're developing here this is Oscar Kobos, who is our architect, and we really wanted now to turn back the clock on Paradise Pier and make it this great seaside attraction from the turn of the century. So we started styling some of the buildings. You'll see here, this is Todd Newbrand, in the dimensional design. We get to do some great little models to study to see what that would, how it would work in the real Paradise Pier. I'm trying. Oh, what we got there? Oh yeah, meanwhile, everybody got really excited and said, God, this is a great attraction. We should do two. Okay, let's think about that. And the candidate became then the Disney MGM Studios in Florida, now the Hollywood Studios.
Which no one had ever done before. No one had ever, all the attractions had been replicated at different parts. No one had ever actually initially built a brand new attraction in two places at once. And so the question was, well, you have Victorian Place here, makes sense. Whereas the studio, what does that mean? We started talking about Pixar and said, well, maybe this is Pixar's studio in Disney Hollywood Studios.
The funny thing is that little ride actually fit into the soundstage that was there almost exactly. It was like faked. So he said, perfect, you just need a little front door fix. And as Roger was mentioning, so we started looking at And then John Lasseter suggested, hey, why don't we make it look like our studio? So we said, okay, so we went up there, took lots of pictures, and started to create a studio kind of location.
And John was like, well, if you're going to do it, I mean, no, really, it should look exactly like this. So these guys came up, they're taking pictures of the brick, and go, what did you think? I need to look at the cement that closely, I don't know.
And the bricks were actually the same vendor who made them. So you can see, whoop.
And that's how many people have been to Mania in Florida? So there's some weird guy standing over there. It is something bizarre. I mean, it's like somebody like, I don't know, built their living room in a different country. Like, wow, how can I be here?
So here's a couple shots.
So the whole concept here was we said, okay, it's a studio, but we want this to be about fantasy. And John was really passionate about that. He said it shouldn't be about, lights and cameras. This is Toy Story, it is a fantasy, so let's let all the toys spill out onto the street. The fantasy of what people when they come to Pixar expect to see, which is giant, toys, literally these giant barrel monkeys, this Mr. Spell. And what really is fantastic is that we created this, and then after this was in production, at Pixar we ended up putting in this giant Luxo Jr. and this giant Luxo ball in front of we're making it more like the Florida side.
Imitating art and back. Sort of as we sort of completed this up front and we kind of figured out how we thought we were going to do it, the concept still remained that we were going into this carnival and where the characters were going to be operating their booths.
But it was a human
scale thing. And then we had a great session up at Pixar one day.
Yeah. And we were talking about the fact that in the movie there are the two worlds. There's the human scale world and the toy scale world. In the toy scale world, the toys are alive and you're having your secret life. And in the human scale world, you come and the toys flop over and pretend not to be alive. So we think, well, maybe we should do the human scale.
So that same portal became, what if we shrunk down to the size of the toy and entered their world, which would be so much more fun than staying in our world. So, I think.
Also, the story was that Andy received this Midway game play set for his birthday, and when he was downstairs having dinner, all the toys sprung to life and set up the whole thing, and Woody sent Mr. Fayehead out front to grab everybody to come in and play with.
So we had to decide where in the Toy Story timeline did we want this to take place. And we basically looked, well, did Toy Story 1 times 2, 3, which we were starting development on. And we said, well, we really wanted to be after 2 because we loved the Roundup gang and we want all of them to be in there. So we created this slightly idealized moment of time in the Toy Story world because we just love that cloud wallpaper, and then at the end of, in 2 he has got the star wallpaper, and I'm like, we want the stars. So, cloud wallpaper, and Prospector, yeah, he's stinky and Pete and everything, but, so Prospector's in the game, maybe he needed it. But we did have this one bizarre conceptual thing, which is that, because, it's the Toy Story playset in Andy's room, like, Toy Story brand. Aren't they in a movie that's called Toy Story, so they have a Toy Story on it, they're in a movie that's in the Toy Story.
We couldn't sleep for weeks.
I won't think about it.
So when we designed what we were talking about, that we invented a new toy, the Midway Games playset, and we thought that Andy would have received this toy and that it was made out of paper and plastic and rivets and screws, and he would have put it together and played with it in his room. And so we invented the toy, and here's the box that came in, and in the box are the carnival trams, and there's the spring action shooters, there's the game booth cut out, there's stickers, there's stand-up-y things, there's backdrops, and then there's the Mr. Potato Head Carnival Barker, sold separately as part of the Midway Games collection. And if you look carefully at the box design, you can see that there's all these other characters that also are sold separately that we never created yet. So anyway, here we had this play set, and we started talking about how the toys had got together while Andy was gone one day, and they decided to put together the playset themselves and invite all the other toys to join them, and they paired up with a favorite friend, and they picked their favorite game, and they hosted this for all the other toys. So all the other toys in Andy's room, besides the gang, is going to be us, the guests. So the way we get to be in Andy's room is to go into the toy world. So we pass through the toy world. So we pass through this portal. And in California Adventure, we pass through this portal, and it's the game box. And once you pass through that, then you are in the world of the toys. So in Florida, we had a little different but in California, you come through the game box, and now you're in the world of the toys. So, in terms of art direction, we chose a lot of the elements that came from the two Toy Story films, looked at the background art forever, looked at all kinds of details, things that were already in Andy's room, and then we recreated them, and then we added some more stuff that maybe was designed in the same era as the Toy Story films period was, in the 60s and 70s, so we don't have a bunch of new toys in there. They all fit with the stuff that came from the Toy Story art direction. We also chose some new art that we created to help create the backgrounds and fill in the room. So we designed some puzzles and some storybooks and some paint by numbers and different things. And a lot of them have a theme of a carnival or a circus, so that even though they're not exactly the Midway Games playset, that they're also the things that go along with the Midway that decorate the rest of the room. So we have all kinds of oversized stuff, giant twister things, Play-Doh, dartboards. I mean, it's like so much fun to get all those toys out and play with them and then make them huge.
You know what, Lori, you should mention that, look at that, well, I'll mention it for you. That Lori went out and went to a bunch of toy stores one day, and she got some truckloads of games and toys and stuff. We got very distracted that day, and we were playing with it. And I got home from work, and my wife says, "How was your day?" Oh, it's a little bit not day. We have the greatest stuff.
Yeah, I got to buy them. They're still in my office, so. So anyway, it was really, really fun to design it. And in California Adventure, at the end of the ride, you leave the world of the toys by exiting through another portion of the box, of the toy box. And then finally, as you exit over the ride path and out to the end of the building, you come by a little office area, and you can see the actual box from the place that is out there. So Andy had just stepped away from this little area. And it's interesting, if you've gone down and seen the Mania Wii game that Disney Interactive has done, there's like, yeah, it's really fun. And there's a whole sequence at the beginning of that where you're in Andy's room and you'll see this box on the floor. So it's like really interesting how all of these design elements are all coming together with the projects that we're working on. So in Florida, we had a little different sequence of how you get into the ride and how you turn into the world of the toys. Here, the marquee for the Midway Mania was all made out of toys. And as soon as you step through the marquee, that's when you actually go into the world of the toys. So you don't have to wait to get on the ride vehicle, you get into the world of toys right away. So we had a really great experience designing the queue, which is all indoors, and it has an elaborate, kind of collection of toys. Game board, Scrabble, things on the ceiling, all the different Tinker Toys and crayons and tons of stuff. And the Viewmaster is really, really fun.
You went and got the original slides.
Right, and really made it look exactly like at Disneyland, or that's a Peter Pan, exactly like the one from that Viewmaster makes. But we picked things that Andy would have. We could see the boxes and stuff from the film. There's pieces from Toy Story 2, the Woody's Roundup element, and then finally Mr. Potato Head is stationed at the end of the room in Florida, doing similar things, still the same stuff, trying to encourage people to come on in and ride the ride, play the games. And in Florida, we designed Andy's bedroom as the load-unload, so it's a huge space for loading and unloading the vehicles that all is surrounding you as though you're in Andy's room, with the toy boxes, bed, and then you again, his shelf, and you again go into the ride and play the game.
When this was under construction, and I was out with you and John Lasseter, and we walked into that space, it had a wallpaper, but not most of the set, and then he walked in and goes, I've never been in Andy's room before!
Yeah, I was really excited. And it's kind of crazy because, it is a big, big room, and it's just, you feel like you're a toy-sized person. But again, you go through the portal the same way you do here, and you go into basically the same ride design.
So, Tim Toy, the short that John directed, of course, and so we made Little Golden Book was great. We published a lot of titles with them, and they let us invent this book, and we used their spine, and and of course we're like, what vintage is it? And there were great debates about what year this book would have come out. And Tim Toy, we wanted to put in because maybe you guys know from reading from stuff about Toy Story, but Toy Story was originally, inspired by the Tim Toy short, and then Kenny was the first star of Toy Story when it was first in development, and it wasn't until it's been in development for a while, and I was like, it's really hard having a lead character whose hands are stuck to an accordion. He went out the door, and Woody and both.
So, that's sort of the finale after you get out the vehicles. That's kind of our little finale at the end of the queue. So that's the basic design.